About a year and a half ago, Emily and I were at an event in Washington, D.C., supporting the National Council of Jewish Women. And during the evening, we met the parents of an Israeli whose daughter was then being held hostage in Gaza. Thank God she's now home. I spoke with the father for quite a while. We were talking about our shared love of Jewish texts, about the well-being of his family in Israel, and about his trip in the United States. He was having a meaningful time here, he said, raising awareness about the plight of his daughter and the other hostages. People were showing support and solidarity in this, the darkest moment of his life. And then he looked at me, and he told me that he was surprised to see me wearing a kippah. Is it really safe to wear that right now? He wondered. I'm embarrassed, but I took mine off. I was surprised. I felt and understood the rise of anti-Semitism after October 7th. And yet, here was an Israeli who seemed at least as concerned about my safety as a Jew in America as his own in Israel. The ways we present ourselves, they telegraph to the world who we are. Wearing a kippah, wearing a pin, says something about us. How we use our words, how we conduct ourselves in public, says even more. Perhaps we don't always want to be known. Maybe it feels better to be unknown, to be a blank slate onto the world. I've been having too many heartbreaking conversations over the last few years with folks. But one particularly heartbreaking set of conversations has been with those who feel less comfortable promoting their Jewishness in public. Some worried about a mezuzah on their door, others shying away from talking with coworkers or friends about their Jewish identity, their Jewish practice. Folks who are not ashamed of being Jewish, usually quite proud, yet maybe a bit more timid in how they show up in public these days. Maybe the conversations will be dangerous, or maybe they'll just be exhausting. Either way, some folks are just changing the way they walk through the world a little bit. Their Jewishness taking up a little less space. The rabbis discuss the proper placement for lighting Hanukkah candles in the Talmud. They teach it's a mitzvah to place the Hanukkah lamp at the entrance of one's house on the outside so that all can see it. And if one lives upstairs, they should place it in a window adjacent to the public square. And in a time of danger, they place it on the table inside the house, and that is sufficient to fulfill their obligation. The Talmud explains that while the core mitzvah of lighting Hanukkah candles is Besormei Nisa, to publicize the miracles of Hanukkah publicly visible, there may be times in which it's safer and therefore advisable to light your candles in the interior of your home. At certain times during foreign rule, lighting Hanukkah candles could cause significant consternation. Rashi explains that under Persian rule, fire had sacred status, and Jewish candle lighting, in the non-sacred way according to the Persians, could provoke hostility or even punishment. Some later authorities note that the concept of a time of danger could be applied more broadly. And using this as a hook, contemporary poskim, contemporary legal decisors, teach that even if someone is reasonably fearful that lighting Hanukkah candles may cause violence or vandalism, then it is permissible to light your candles away from the window in the privacy of your own home. As one sage said, in times of danger, we understand publicizing the miracle to mean publicizing the miracle to your own family. I wish I could say that these concerns from centuries and centuries ago were no longer relevant. In my 4.5 years in Baltimore, there have been instances of anti-Semitism around Hanukkah. In 2021, a rock was thrown into a home in Federal Hill, shattering the window and nearly knocking over the Chanukiah. A little later that year, anti-Semitic graffiti was found by the Mount Washington light rail station. And as I was researching these instances, I was being redirected to countless other instances in other cities around the country similar to these. Thank goodness that these events are accompanied by stories of multi-faith support and Jewish joy. Our Beth Am public and ever-growing Hanukkah celebration at our house has gone off each year without a hitch. And there are countless other stories of public Judaism, interfaith dialogue, and community that reminds me why I am so optimistic about our country as a place where Jews will continue to thrive. But there have been too many instances of violence in words and acts and real physical confrontation that have led many of us to ask the question, what kind of time are we living in? Is this the time of danger the Talmud is describing? Is it time to move the Chanukiot away from the windowsill? The truth is that each of us may be approaching this Hanukkah feeling differently about safety in this moment. We know that many folks are being targeted within and well beyond the Jewish community right now for their religion, their race, their sexual orientation, their real or assumed legal status. It's a frightening time for far too many of us and our neighbors to stand proud, to publicize who we are and what makes us unique. Others may not be feeling this way, and that's okay too. I'm grateful every day to be a Jew in this country and in this city. And yet I wouldn't be completely honest if I didn't admit that at times I wonder what people make of me. In my kippah, a visibly Jewish presence in public space. Of course, you don't know anything about me simply by seeing me, and yet I'm aware of the assumptions that others may carry. That awareness, it's not abstract. I've seen it surface in my own neighborhood in casual comments and anti-Semitic comments on a neighborhood Facebook group this week in Hamden, in ways that remind me how quickly old stereotypes just disappear or don't disappear. But Hanukkah is a holiday about being proud, not about hiding in the shadows, but about lighting up the night and being visible. The rabbis of the Talmud understood that in their day and onward, there may be times of unsafety, both for us as individuals and communally, times in which it just might not be prudent to put candles in the window. And truthfully, it is important that we publicize the miracle of Hanukkah for ourselves as much as for our neighbors, to remind ourselves that we have the ability to go beyond what is possible, that a small drop of oil might last a week, and that the little that we have to offer, as small as it may be in the grand scheme of things, will be enough to make real change. And you can learn that message if the candles are on the windowsill or on the table, or even the lights that we kindle in our own hearts. But here's my worry. If we give up on publicizing the miracle in the public square, if we allow ourselves to believe that taking up space as Jews in our community is unacceptable, that the miracle of our continuity is not to be celebrated but to be hidden, we may wake up one day and discover that this now has become the norm. Our halachic sources start to lead that way. In an authoritative Jewish law code called the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, known as the Ramah, writes that while the custom in the Talmud is to light candles outside the house for all to see, now the custom is to light inside, because people do not recognize the lights in the public square any longer. Later commentators try to explain what the Ramah might have meant. Might Jews have stopped lighting outside because people weren't walking by their houses in the same way? Might they have stopped lighting inside not because of a decree, but just because of their own fear of violence that the lights might have caused. I read the Ramah's matter-of-fact statement a bit differently. To me, he's saying, regardless of the reason why, once we started lighting candles inside, that became the new norm. And now it's simply what we do, tradition. Put another way, the longer we continue to not light candles in the window, we became okay with making our miracle just a little bit smaller. I so desperately want to be able to tell that Israeli who I met 2 years ago that we have nothing to be afraid of, and I'm not quite there yet. But the truth is, despite our fear, despite the risk of anti-Semitism and extremism in a polarized society, I know that part of the way we come back together, part of the way we strengthen pluralistic society, is for each of us to share our own lights and to demand that each of us be known in our fullness. Because when we do this, when we make space for our own light and we look for the light of others, their traditions, their norms, and their values as well, we show that we understand what Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs coined the dignity of difference. That we don't aspire to walk small through the world. That there's enough space for each of us and for all of us, whoever we are, to publicize our miracles and to light our lights. Hanukkah doesn't ask us to be fearless, but it does ask us when we can not to disappear. Chag Urim Sameach. Shabbat Shalom.